Good morning, everybody. It is great to see you all here today. I want to continue to encourage you to sign in online. Just check in with us, share a comment this morning. It is always good to gather in community like this. And these Sundays are live, so this is your chance to continue. Thank you, Mary, for sharing a prayer concern in that way. We will be praying for your family. You continue to comment, share your thoughts, your ideas, even just your greetings for each other. It is always good that we can gather together like this because we are living in not the first time, but certainly a crazy time. this election season and cycle that we're in right now, holy smokes. I'm 57 and I have not seen contention like this in my lifetime. And I hear many other people say the same thing. This is a really weird time. So any opportunity we have to gather together, even if we don't all agree on everything, is a good thing for the body of Christ in this world. So pray with me. God bless this time with your spirit and with your peace. Amen. I want to look at, in light of all that, I want to look at a story in the Bible that is right after the things we've been discussing a lot lately, the Jerusalem Council, right after the apostles and disciples in Jerusalem decided that it was okay for other Gentiles to be included without having to be circumcised and only obey a few rules in the end. You know, when they made that decision, right after that, I want you to see what happens. And it's a really good thing that it's actually in the Bible, okay? And I'll explain. Here we have it in Acts 15:36 through 41. After some days, Paul said to Barnabas, who was someone who had gone with him in the past, "Come, let us return and visit the brothers and sisters in every city where we proclaim the word of the Lord and see how they're doing." Barnabas wanted to take with them John called Mark, but Paul decided not to take with them one who had deserted them in Pamphylia and had not accompanied them in the work. The disagreement became so sharp that they parted company. Okay, in case you missed it, they're disagreeing about taking John Mark with them, and they split up because of it. Barnabas took John Mark with him and sailed away to Cyprus. But Paul chose Silas and set out, the brothers and sisters commending him to the grace of the Lord. Paul, went through Syria and Cilicia, strengthening the churches. All right. So we got a conflict right here in the book of Acts. Two people who had worked together before, had traveled together a long time and a lot of distances, suddenly having a disagreement about another person. And they split over it. Does this sound like, I don't know about you, but every person I have talked to has told me they have had at least one relationship that has met difficult, impassable conflict over loyalty to one person or another, particularly in the political sphere we're in. Has this not happened even today, where two people who have worked together in the past part ways over disagreements that they just can't seem to work through together? Yes, it happens all the time, and it happens in churches. And I'm really glad that this story is in the Bible because it tells us that right away people disagreed. I want to look at this a little more closely, though. So why? Why did they disagree? I mean, the scripture does tell us that it's somebody who didn't stay with the plan before, but we don't really know why that is true. Why did Paul not want John Mark to come along? We have to go back to Acts 13:13, where it says, Paul and his companions set sail from Paphos and came to Perga in Pamphylia. John Mark, however, left them and returned to Jerusalem. We don't really know why John Mark left them at that point. It doesn't say. So why did they part ways? Well, it's commonly believed that John Mark returned to Jerusalem instead of continuing with Paul because he wasn't completely sure about taking the gospel to the Gentiles. Like maybe those decisions that were made at the Jerusalem Council were not really okay with John Mark. He really wasn't sure. And Barnabas, felt like we could overcome that or something. But see, the Bible doesn't say any of that. We don't really know why John Mark didn't go along with them back in Jerusalem. And we don't know why that upset Paul and why that meant that their relationship had to split. All we really know is that Paul and Barnabas disagreed over something about John Mark. And because of that, they chose to go separate ways. I think we can all relate. It's just how it is. I Google artwork to try to find things, and this fresco is amazing, isn't it? This comes up when you Google Paul and Barnabas. Or maybe it's interesting. I love this one too. And we have this going on in our world with Christians. It's just, what an image. There are other conflicts mentioned too early in the book of Acts that are a part of this too. Certainly the Jerusalem Council was a conflict over who could be included and around. And then Paul also disagreed with Peter, who is another really important apostle, a disciple we've talked about a lot. Paul disagreed with him so vehemently that he confronted him with it. I want you to see the beginning of Galatians 2:11 through 14. Later, when Peter came to Antioch, this is Paul saying, I had a face-to-face confrontation with him because he was clearly out of line. This is how the Message translation puts it. And it was this whole thing over the conservative Jewish clique, and the continuation of the argument over whether or not people could be allowed without being circumcised. I mean, for crying out loud, that argument really just didn't go away as easily as we would have hoped it would. It did not. It continued. It is good that the Bible includes conflict between the followers of the way. Honestly, it is good. I fully believe that because it tells us that conflict is just a part of this journey. And it also makes the whole story more believable. If you think about it, if people had wanted to just make a story about how amazing and uniting Jesus was, they would not have included these stories of conflict. They would have written it, if they were just making this up, they certainly would have written it with a much more polished picture of this whole thing. I mean, how could you possibly deny Jesus after you saw him after the death and crucifixion and death and, post-resurrection Jesus? How could you possibly deny that? It would have been an amazing uniting force. But the fact that they write about conflict tells us that this is more believable. It's really more believable because they include the conflict in it. I want to talk a little bit more about this conflict. I found this article by John, and this is a mouthful, Browners Reuther, and I so apologize, Reuter, and I apologize, Reverend John, if I mispronounced your last name. But this is a really cool article. It says, handling conflict, what Paul and Barnabas didn't do, because we all know what we do with conflict, right? Everybody in this world does, even just on social media, right? There is no evidence in the account that they blamed each other or tried to gain others for their particular side. We don't hear anything about that. There is no evidence that they spoke evil of one another, or, for that matter, did anything to win at all costs. You see this? Nor is there any report that either one tried to make a suspect theological case for their point or accuse the other of heresy. What is reported in the text is that they parted ways as harmoniously as possible under the circumstances and continued their mission. That is what is reported. If all those other messy things happened, we don't hear a thing about it in the Bible. Yes, Douglas Earl Anderson, unlike politicians today, many of whom claim Christianity, okay? However, I don't want to discount this and brush over conflict as if it's easy to just, do this without any real contention or ongoing difficulty, because sometimes the things we're disagreeing about really matter. They are life and death matters. They are matters of freedom. They are, they are things that are worth digging in and fighting about, frankly, and fighting for. I don't know about you, but I certainly hope that things will settle down after this upcoming election. I really do. I hope they will settle down, don't you? But there's no doubt about it. We are really disagreeing on big things, and it's not just who's going to be president next at all. It's everything that those people stand for. We are really disagreeing. And there are, no doubt, I really believe there's some relationships that may not fully recover from this time. I believe that. Again, as I said earlier, I haven't talked with a single person that told me that they didn't have any conflicts over this current election or COVID. Let's just back up. Do you know how deep these divisions have run? These divisions over these things have separated families. They've separated churches. They've separated communities. You know it. And there is no doubt in my mind some of these relationships will not fully recover. And the reason is important. Because what we're disagreeing about in some cases is really worth the battle. And then sometimes on one side or the other, the fact that our family member or friend or church member would say or believe these things over here tells us something about them that we didn't really know before. And it's difficult, isn't it? It's difficult to not argue, and it is very difficult to part ways. It hurts. And we haven't just disagreed over politics. You guys know there's a very, very long list. And here's the group I'm most worried about. I'm most worried about the kids who are middle school and teenagers right now. The incidence of mental health concerns in these age groups is extraordinarily high. It's incredible. I hear stories about violence in the schools all the time. We see violence, even in my neighborhood, vandalism of homes and the swimming pool. Boy, is that a first world problem or what? But this is what I really worry about, the next generations of people, of children, especially middle school and younger right now, growing up in this highly conflictual time. What do they think? What are they seeing? And what are they learning about humanity right now? Will what they're learning help right the ship, frankly? Or will it lead to even greater falling apart? Let's think about it. When we talk about politics in our homes, our kids who have really very little children, very little understanding of anything, less than we have, which often most of us have very little understanding, they're picking it up. Kids will repeat what they hear at home. This picture just kind of breaks my heart. This kid's obviously pretty young, and so is the one straight above me. Yeah, Mary, I agree. And let's talk about the things that happen in our country, the way that we talk about them. This is history now, okay? Will this be taught in schools? I don't know. I'll tell you something. I thought this was amazing. 42% of American workers now say they have thought about politics at work, and you can expect it to continue. This is an article by Abigail Johnson Hess. Cracks me up. It was written in 2019. What do you think the percentage is now? It's a good article. It's short. Take a look at it. There's another article that I can't really post as a link for you because it's in the Atlantic, and although I get the Atlantic, I can't always share articles from them. But there is a podcast that would help you pick it up. But this article title is just fascinating by Jonathan Haidt. It is Why the Past 10 Years of American Life Have Been Uniquely Stupid. It's just great. If you can't access that article, if you really want to read that article, let me know and I'll find a way to get it to you. But this podcast addresses the very thing. It's the same people, Jonathan Haidt, talking about that. Why has this been so stupid? It's only about 30 minutes. It actually talks about how social media has caused an explosion in conflict. Take a listen if you're curious, because I think these are times that will be studied for a very long time, because the pain that our children are experiencing right now in growing up, the fear they may have for the future, even in the 20s and 30 somethings people right now, the lack of faith and hope that they have in the future of the United States of America is incredible. It's extraordinary how afraid they are. This is a picture of children in the Middle East. See, this is not just in the United States. These are children in the Middle East. And I could have posted pictures that I could hardly look at. You know that's true. You see them too. These are children in Ukraine trying to make school happen. Look how tired they look. And trust me, there are many more pictures I could show you. This is the generation I'm worried about. These are the people who need to know something different from Christians. I'm going to go back to Reverend John's words. Look at this. Regarding Paul and Barnabas in the Bible that we talked about first, it is evident that the mission was too important to be impeded by a controversy, even one that seemed significant in the eyes of Paul and Barnabas. And it may have been. I get that. But they decided the mission, let me repeat this in large letters, the mission was too important to be impeded by a controversy. Yes. And I got to tell you, that is the most inspiring thing that I see and I hear at this place, Coon Rapids UMC. This right here, from so many of the people here and around here. Even if we don't quite agree on all things, the mission is too important, because the people that we are meeting are of every age, old, middle, young, and children. And they need hope. Everyone needs to be reminded that love is the base. They need hope. They need to believe that it's possible that things will get better. We have more children on Fridays than you would ever believe. And they're running in the door now and giving people hugs. You should see it. It's remarkable. It is too important to be impeded by a controversy, and I love that that's happened here. I wish that hope would grow in other places. How can we come together for the sake of our children? How? When? How often? See, God has a unique way of bringing good things out of evil situations. I don't necessarily agree with all of Reverend John's choice of verbiage here, but listen, realizing God's mission is through God's people, even when sin or conflict or controversy gets in the way. Although those things are important, it is worth fighting over. It is. God has a way of making things work for the mission anyway. Love does live. Love lives. It really does. See, Barnabas in the Bible is never mentioned again after this conflict. But later, Paul and Mark do seem to reconcile, and this is my audacious prayer for all of us as we go forward. Look at how this says this in 2 Timothy. Only Luke is with me. Go get Mark, meaning John Mark, and bring him with you, for he's useful to me in ministry. Even if they disagreed, even if they had a past split, all of a sudden here is Paul requesting John Mark to come because he needs him to continue in ministry. Healing is possible. I hope our kids will learn that. Even when it's hard to imagine. You know, these kids probably cannot imagine. They can't imagine a pre-COVID world. They can't imagine a pre-January 6th world. They can't imagine a pre-September 11th world. I could put a million dates in there. How do we bring healing and hope and love to them anyway? How do we do that? How do we demonstrate for them over and over week after week, day after day, in all aspects of our lives, not just here, but with your friends, with your neighbors, with your kids, with your grandchildren, with your sisters and brothers, with your parents, with your coworkers. How do we make the mission of love the most important thing at the base? Yes, there's some things worth arguing and fighting about, but how does love live? It lives through us, friends. I want to talk about something really important here. A decision that's been made over time. You can see the poster behind me, I'm sure of it. It says all are welcome here. This is just something that we have talked about here at Coon Rapids UMC for the whole time I've been here, frankly, 6 years and a few months now. 6 years. It's been talked about because of the United Methodist Church's shift and split. There it is, going separate ways. Another time. Over this very issue, over the issue of how welcome are people. Are they welcome until we tell them that their behavior is unacceptable, or are they truly welcome for who they are? And this church is ready to step forward in faith. And if you're not, that's okay. I know many people are not 100% sure about this, but 99 is good enough for a lot of people. 90% is good enough. That we need to be careful and be sure that all people know they're safe here. We need to create an environment of safety because our mission is more important than our disagreement in some cases. And many, many people have shared with me that our mission is more important than any disagreement. I want you to get a closer look at this poster because we're ready. We're ready to put these on the window and inside and even outside. We're ready. I want you to see, and if you're not, that's okay. Please talk with me about this. Please, please, please talk with me. I really want to have the conversation with you. Look at how this is something that has been produced in Minnesota, and it has changed over time. And they have included in the making of this the black and brown colors as well. It is very important that all people know they are welcome here. We don't care what color you are. We don't care about your sexuality. In terms of this, I mean, we do care about you, but we don't care about this because you need food and we're going to feed you. We're going to share God's generosity. We're going to experience God's generosity together. The mission is more important than any disagreement we might have, ultimately. And so we're ready to step. I am so proud of this church and their willingness to step forward like this. Again, if you're worried about it, please do contact me. Let's talk, please. But I think this is the way to demonstrate to our kids, to all people, that love lives. I think that making love living the priority is how the way of Jesus will become more clear and maybe even bring healing. I would love for the young people of this world to find hope in the followers of Jesus. I would love for that to happen. Would you too? Would you too? I hope so. Sincerely, I do. shorter message today for you guys. But these things are so important. I really just wanted to make the point clear. Love lives, and it lives in us, and in the history of this planet, and in the size of this incredible universe and place that we live in. Our lifetimes are really, truly just a tiny blip in all of it. But what we do matters. How we treat people matters. Because we have the chance, I don't know about you, but I'm 57. We have the chance to keep love living louder, clearer, ready to do whatever it takes to be sure that the message gets across to the next generations. Take care, everybody. Much love to all of you. I hope you have a good week. I look forward to seeing you again soon. And again, reach out to me. If any of this makes you feel weird or uncomfortable, I'm more than happy to talk with you. More than happy to. Take care. I'll see you soon.